Kathy Hochul. Is that how you pronounce her last name? I've actually I've only ever seen it written. I've never heard it said out loud, but we'll go with Hochul for now. Kathy Hochul decides that in the light of a near certain medical care shortage in her state, she's going to replace her unvaxxed employees who have to get fired with National Guardsmen, further nationalizing the workforce. So we'll talk just a bit about that and some of the things that come off of that, because that's moving into some leery territory, and I don't care for that, and I don't think you guys will either, because, well, I know you guys very much, but we will keep on going after that. In other news, the GOP has blocked the debt limit hike and the government funding bill, so we'll talk a bit about what that could mean, where we could go from there, and the spin that the mainstream media is trying to put on this. Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell get their Pfizer booster shots live on air for some reason. I don't know why that's important, but we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. And John Hinckley gets an unconditional release. Not a full pardon, but an unconditional release. He gets to come back out into society. And we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, hey, hey. Do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Boy, oh boy, was I behind the 8 ball this morning here. I just realized I didn't have the live chat up. I didn't have the YouTube link sent out for people to go back and explore the page. I had nothing done here. I was just kind of oh, shoot, there's all the stuff here. So, yeah, while the title card was up, I just rectified all that real quick. But, geez, we're really behind the 8 ball here today. I've been filibustering a little bit here because I'm waiting to see if I have to sneeze again because... surprise, surprise, it's the fall and all the pollen is out again, and my allergies are kicking my ass once again. So, bear with me, folks. I think I should be done with the constant runny nose. I might have to get up on one video at some point over here, but we will cross that bridge when we get there, or see if we can find a video for that so I can get up and take care of that. But otherwise, we got to get on to the news here because... well, it's not as busy of a day as it has been in the times past, but there's still a bunch to get to. And even though there are not as many stories, they're going to be a little bit deeper in depth here. So we're going to dig through some of these and talk about some of the stuff that we have going on here. But before we get started, head on over and check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Go check that out over there. The start page is up, but go ahead and bookmark that. Get ready for that. Something cool is coming very soon. And we got another big donation yesterday, too. So that's pretty awesome. I think that's fairly cool that we got the other donation here. Hold on a sec. Let me get the view on the fundraiser itself because it's anonymous, people. We don't want everybody to see everything off of this. But, yeah, go over, check that out. TSP-prod.com, or Turn Some Pages Productions, will have news, we'll have written articles, we will have culture, we will have great shows such as The Porch Boys, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Breckenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brick Show, plus a new show that will be announced on a later date. Go check all those shows out, though. Check out the website and bookmark that because at some point, yeah, we're going to have all your news gathered up in one place, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. And also go check out the fundraiser we have going for that. I will take that and link that in the chat for you guys. So if you guys want to throw a couple bucks our way to go help us get started, that would be really cool of you. I think that would be awesome if you could. So go and check that out. Anybody who wants to be named, which the first two donors didn't want to be named, but anybody who wants to be named will get their names listed on the website as a special thank you for coming out here and doing this for us as well, for being one of the pioneer members, believing in us before we even get started, before we get our first news article written up here. So that would be really cool of you as well. But yeah, go and check both of those things out. Check all those shows out. That's going to be great. All right, let's get into finance. Starting with the Dow. The Dow was up. It took it got up really, really far yesterday, and then it kind of dropped and dribbled back off again. Closing yesterday at 34,869.37. That is up 71.37 points, or 0.21%, throughout the day yesterday, and some of this might have to do with struggles over the government shutdown. With what Republicans just did, I expect a little bit of a tank in the markets today, so we will see what happens with that. All right. Let's get into your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is at $42,099 US dollars and 30 US cents, which means it's a little bit of a drop off from yesterday, holding steady once again at that kind of low 40s line. That's kind of where it's been holding steady for quite a while. I mean, if we go back through the year, after July, rather, it jumped back up. And then it had the big jump throughout the day, and then it kind of trickled off, and it's kind of held steady on the 40,000 line throughout the year, with a couple of big jumps throughout it. But for the most part, yeah, we're just sitting here at 40,000. I think that's going to be the standard through the year, which means that both Elaine and I were wrong. I said it's possible to see 100,000. She said it was possible to see 400,000, and I don't think we're going to get to either. Let me drop the music back just a little bit here. Good music. Different playlist that I found on Pretzel Rocks, but a little bit too loud in my ears yet. Oops. There we go. Let's take that back just to that point. So yes, that's where you're seeing on your Bitcoin. Your scrap metal prices. It appears that copper and steel both went down throughout the day yesterday. Aluminum is back on its upswing once again. Your bare bright copper wire, copper tubing, flashing copper, those are all down, but your number 2 copper tubing is up. Romex is up as well. Steel, BX is down. Brass is down. Light iron is down. Rotors are down. Cast iron is up, which is weird because if cast iron is up and rotors are down, rotors are cast iron, but who knew? Aluminum copper fin radiators are down. Regular radiators are down. Cans are down, sheet aluminum is down, but aluminum rims are up enough that they're holding the rest of it up. So, I would hold your metal for a little while if you do need to go out and make a trip over to the scrapyard because you got a little bit of metal piled up, some wire, stuff like that. I'd hold it for a little while. That's where I would be, but this is not official financial advice. All right, let's look in at Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones futures fall, techs tumble as oil prices, yields keep running. Pelosi makes key infrastructure decision. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures fell modestly Tuesday morning, while S&P 500 futures fell solidly and NASDAQ futures tumbled. Treasury yields and crude oil prices continued to rise, raising inflation fears. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told her Democratic caucus late Monday that she no longer is linking the bipartisan trillion-dollar infrastructure bill to passage of a much larger reconciliation package. That also comes as Senate Republicans blocked a bill to raise the debt limit and extend the government financing. The stock market rally had a mixed Monday, with the Dow Jones and small cap Russell 2000 rallying, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ Composite retreated. On your futures, Dow futures fell 0.3% versus fair value, with energy and bank components thriving. S&P 500 futures were down 0.7%, and NASDAQ futures plunged 1.4%. Yeah, that was I kind of figured with the fact that there's a government shutdown looming that all the futures were going to drop, and we're probably going to see a drop in the Dow itself, especially given the fact that the debt ceiling is tied to that. We're going to talk in depth a little bit more about that when we get up and talk about the budget stuff, because given the fact, and I haven't seen this anywhere else yet, but given the fact that now Pelosi is trying to unlink the regular infrastructure bill with the reconciliation, tells me I think I know what she's going to do with this, and I don't think we're going to get a reconciliation off of this. Which means I don't think the progressives are going to do with this. I don't think they're going to vote for the regular infrastructure bill, and I think we're going to see a lame duck presidency. But we'll talk about that in a bit. The 10-year Treasury yield rose up 1.54% overnight, the highest since June. There's a growing concern that higher inflation is not transitory. No shit, Sherlock! Gee, it's almost like I've been telling you that for... what's this, September? 7 months? There's something Fed Chief Jerome Powell will likely address in his congressional testimony today. One reason for the inflation fears is that crude oil prices continue to keep rising and natural gas prices soaring. U.S. crude topped $76 a barrel, while Brent hit $80 for the first time in years. U.S. natural gas futures jumped 6% after spiking on Monday. And pay attention to that, because we're coming into October, which means November and December are coming. And that's going to affect your heating bills if you live up in this region of the country, up in the northern region, your New Yorks, your Massachusetts, your Michigans, your Wisconsins, your North Dakota, South Dakota, places like that. It's going to get cold, and it's going to be more expensive to heat your homes, especially if they keep pumping the fuel prices back up. The best thing that could happen right now is that a judge comes in and says, Biden, you have to open up the Keystone Pipeline again because it was unconstitutional what you did. That could be the best thing that could happen for the Biden presidency right now, because once those heating bills start hitting, a lot more of his constituency is going to look and say, hey, what the fuck, man? Higher energy prices are good news for oil and gas plays, while the higher and widening Treasury yield spreads buoy financials, but the rising yields pressure highly valued growth stocks, while higher inflation is a general negative. Also keep in mind that this is a global energy crunch. Natural gas prices have exploded in Europe, while coal is in short supply in China and India. China is seeing some power outages and significant factory shutdowns as a result. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So a lot of stuff to look at here, a lot of stuff to watch with this. This is a little bit concerning, especially coming off in this. And yes, they're saying this is a global crunch, but also keep in mind that, yeah, okay, the oil is crunching around the globe. But what was one thing for the last 4 years with the Keystone XL pipeline up and several, probably not all, but several of the spigots turned on in the U.S. meant that they weren't going out, and one of the bigger consumers of oil in the world wasn't going out and buying the rest of the world's oil. We were keeping our own. So now Europe, Asia, the Middle East, Africa to an extent, they all have to share the same oil that the U.S. is buying. Whereas they didn't have to share as much over the past 4 years. So yeah, that's going to take a weight on this. It's going to drive the prices up, and it's going to drive the prices for everything that runs off the oil up. But don't worry, man. No more mean tweets. Let's look in at Fox Business. Shut up, autoplay. U.S. stocks trending lower with Dow tech-heavy NASDAQ leading the way. From Yuri Kagema of the Associated Press. U.S. equity futures follow Monday's trend as all three major indices are trading lower, with Dow tech-heavy NASDAQ leading the way early Tuesday. Wall Street's major stock indices ended the session Monday with losses by technology and healthcare companies, which outweighed gains elsewhere in the market. The S&P 500 fell 0.3% to 4311, ending a 3-day winning streak for the benchmark index, which last week notched its first weekly gain in 3 weeks. The NASDAQ dropped 0.5% to 14,969.97, while the Dow managed a 0.2% gain to 34,869.37. The Russell 2000 picked up about 1.5% to 2281, a sign that investors are still confident about the future economic growth. The yield on the 10-year Treasury was steady at 1.49%. It was at 1.31% a week ago, as market jitters drove investors to shift money into bonds, which lower their yield. It's been climbing for the past week. Yeah, if the government is saying that they're about to default and they're about to shut the government down again, I wouldn't want my money anywhere near a bond. Right now, and this is not official financial advice by any means, do what's best for your family, but I would actually start debating whether or not to sell off the bonds that I have. Like if you're growing up and your family gave you a savings bond or something for a birthday or Christmas present or something throughout the years. I would start debating whether or not It's time to get out of those, even if they're not matured yet. But not official financial advice. That's just what I would do. The yield influences interest rates on mortgages and other consumer loans, so when it rises, it allows lenders to charge higher rates. Bank of America gained 2.7%. U.S. markets had a choppy month so far, and the S&P 500 is on pace to shed 1.8% in September, which could mark the first monthly loss since January. Investors have been trying to gauge just how much room the economy has to grow amid waves of COVID-19, crimping consumer spending and job growth while inflation remains a concern. Consumer spending has been the key driver for an economic recovery, and it has been crimped in part by the rising cases of COVID-19 because of the highly contagious Delta variant, which remains a huge concern in Asia. Meanwhile, Asian shares mostly fell Tuesday as concerns about China chipped away at investor optimism following a mixed finish on Wall Street. Japan's benchmark, Nikkei 225, lost 0.3% to 3139.65. Australia's S&P ASX 200 slipped 1% to 7314. 10. South Korea's Kospi declined 0.8% to 3109. 07. Hong Kong's Hang Seng added 1.7% to 24619. 28. The Shanghai Composite Index climbed 0.3% to 3594.18. And here comes the train. That's the pain train for the people who are investing right now. I'm just kidding. We'll probably see something pull back out of this, but it's interesting to watch where this is going. So we will continue to watch this. We will continue to see where this goes. We will talk about some of the things that are going to happen with this, including employment news and the budget. Let's get into the big news of the day, starting today with one of our favorites here. Let's listen to what they have to say over at NPR. New York may use the National Guard to replace unvaccinated healthcare workers. This is from Rachel Treisman. And remember, there's the big red donate button because NPR needs your money to continue to spread their communist ideals across the world. NPR, National Progressive Radio, never posts reality. Thank you, Spartan, for that one here. There were some other good ones, but some of them I can't say on the air. So we will stick with National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. New York State officials are bracing for staffing shortages while the state's healthcare worker vaccination mandate takes effect on Monday. It could be looking to the National Guard as well as medical professionals from other states and counties to help address them. So this article here was released before the announcement that we'll talk about in just a second. But I kind of wanted to show you guys what the lead up was to this before we drop the bomb on you. Kathy Hochul released a plan on Saturday outlining the steps she could take to increase the workforce in the event that large numbers of hospitals and nursing home employees do not meet the state's deadline. We are still in a battle against COVID to protect our loved ones, and we need to fight with every tool at our disposal, she said. That could mean declaring a state of emergency to allow healthcare professionals licensed outside of New York, as well as recent grads and retirees, to practice there. Other options include deploying medically trained National Guard members, partnering with the federal government to send disaster medical assistance teams to local health and medical systems, and exploring ways to expedite visa requests for medical professionals. The state's Labor Department has also issued guidance clarifying that workers who are terminated because they refuse to be vaccinated will not be eligible for unemployment insurance. Holy shit. Absent a valid doctor-approved request for medical accommodation. There's your donate button. Donate again because we need your money. I mean our money, comrade. All healthcare workers in New York's hospitals and nursing homes are required to have at least one dose of COVID vaccine by Monday, according to state regulation and a mandate issued by former Governor Andy Cuomo last month. Staff at other institutions, including home care, hospice, adult care facilities, must be vaccinated by October 7th. The most recent numbers suggest that the state still has ways to go. As of Wednesday, 84% of all hospital employees were fully vaccinated and 81% of staff at all adult care facilities and 77% of nursing home facility staff were fully vaccinated as of Thursday. Healthcare systems statewide and nationally are already struggling with staffing shortages. Critics of the requirement have challenged it through protests and lawsuits, as North Country Public Radio reports, opposing mandatory vaccination and challenging the lack of exemptions for religious objections. At this point, healthcare workers have the option to apply for a religious exemption until at least October 12th, when a federal judge will consider a legal challenge in favor of such exemptions. As hospitals readied their contingency plans, for which many include limiting certain procedures, late last week, Hochul held firm to the deadline. She told reporters on Thursday there are no excuses for workers refusing to get vaccinated and calling the impending shortages completely avoidable. So that's what we're seeing out here. She's holding firm to this. This is going to happen. She's not going to back down off of any of this. Which I've noticed a lot of things around there that, we're seeing a lot of these female governors around here who seem to have a little bit of a dictatorial tendency. It seems. You know the ones I'm talking about. Hochul here. Whitmer. There was another big one. Another big female one. Kate Brown over in Oregon. Gavin Newsom. All these female governors out here, they've got these dictatorial tendencies, and you can't stop them. So, what are you going to do? I do hope that she loses some of her tax base out of this. That some of them look at this and say, fuck that, and get the fuck out of New York. But the plan is here. Let's listen to what Kathy Hochul has to say.
And we'll be nation leading with our mandate, which strikes at midnight tonight, when everyone is expected in a hospital in the state of New York or a healthcare facility to have been vaccinated. I will be signing an executive order to give me the emergency powers necessary to address these shortages where they occur. That's going to allow me to deploy the National Guard, who are medically trained, deploy people who've been retired, who may have had a license lapse, bring in people from elsewhere. That is not my first position, though, my friends. My desire is to have the people who've been out there continue to work in their jobs, work in them safely, and to all the other healthcare workers who are vaccinated, they also deserve to know that the people they're working with will not get them sick. And we'll be nation leading with our mandate, which
So this is definitely interesting, especially given the fact that I just watched the prequel trilogy for Star Wars not that long ago. I would think it was just last week I finished it back out, Revenge of the Sith, where, there was a big debate as to whether or not to even give Chancellor Palpatine the emergency powers. There was a big debate whether to make him Chancellor at all, but to give him the emergency powers. But, he stands up there and he says, I don't want these emergency powers, and I will relinquish them as soon as it's possible, as soon as it is safe for the world, for the galaxy that I love so much. And approximately 3 hours later, we hear, shall be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire! So I always do get a little bit nervous when I hear one of these big politicians who do have a bit of a tyrannical streak in them talk about, I'm going to give myself the emergency powers. Let's keep going. From Reuters. New York may tap National Guard to replace unvaccinated healthcare workers. This is from Nathan Lane. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is considering employing the National Guard and out-of-state medical workers to fill hospital staffing shortages, with tens of thousands of workers possibly losing their jobs for not meeting a Monday deadline for mandated COVID-19 vaccination. The plan, outlined in a statement from Hochul on Saturday, would allow her to declare a state of emergency to increase the supply of healthcare workers. To include licensed professionals from other states and countries, as well as retired nurses. Hochul said the state was also looking at using the National Guard with medical training to keep hospitals and other medical facilities adequately staffed. Some 16% of the state's 450,000 hospital staff, or roughly 72,000 workers, have not yet been fully vaccinated, the governor's office said. The plan comes amid a broader battle between state and federal government leaders pushing for vaccine mandates to help counter the highly infectious Delta variant of the novel coronavirus, which, hey, it's convenient again, so that's coming back. Fun. And workers who are against inoculation requirements, some objecting on religious grounds. Hochul attended the Sunday service at a large church in New York City to ask Christians to help promote vaccines. She didn't. You didn't just say that. Did you? Really, Kathy? Really? I need you to be my apostles! And the Instagram just kicked off, so bye Instagram. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other, Hochul told congregants at the Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, according to an official transcript. Jesus Christ. This is a religion. It's not a cult, you guys. It's not a cult. Jesus taught us to love one another, and how do you show that love but to care about each other enough to say, please get the vaccine, because I love you and I want you to live. Healthcare workers who are fired for refusing to get vaccinated will not be eligible for unemployment. I love that. I love that she says, Jesus taught us to love one another, and how do you show that love but to care for each other? By the way, if you get your ass canned for not getting the vaccine, you're not getting unemployment. And the editor at Reuters didn't see the irony of those two statements together, right next to each other. Unless they're able to provide a valid doctor-approved request for medical accommodation, Hochul's office said. It was not immediately clear how pending legal cases concerning religious exemptions would apply to the state's plan to move ahead and terminate unvaccinated healthcare workers. A federal judge in Albany temporarily ordered New York state officials to allow religious exemptions for the state-imposed vaccine mandate on healthcare workers, which was put in place by former Governor Andy Cuomo and takes effect on Monday. You know how you would get around not having to get the army or people from other countries to come in and do this for you is by not firing people. And I've been hearing this since I was a kid. I was actually pushed into the medical field, which I chose not to do because I do have some problems with seeing other people get stuck with a needle. Of course, I don't like doing it myself, but I get really queasy when I see other people getting stuck with it. Like if it's on a TV show or something where somebody's getting a vaccination or getting a heroin boost or something like that. I get super uncomfortable with seeing that kind of stuff, which is part of the reason I couldn't go into the medical field. But I was told, hey, go into the medical field. Just ditch whatever else you wanted to do, go in the medical field. There are huge shortages. And that was in 2002. It is now almost 2 decades later. And the shortages have been getting worse and worse as we go through. Now coming up to the point where now they're firing people. And I'm wondering why there's such a shortage. A requirement for New York City school teachers and staff to get vaccinated was temporarily blocked by a U.S. appeals court just days before it was to take effect. A hearing is set for Wednesday. The highly transmissible Delta variant has driven the surge in COVID cases and hospitalizations in the U.S. that peaked in early September and has since fallen. According to a Reuters tally, deaths, a lagging indicator, continue to rise, with the nation reporting about 2,000 lives lost on average a day for the past week, mostly in the unvaccinated. While nationally, cases are down about 25% from their autumn peak, rising new infections in New York have only recently leveled off, according to a Reuters tally. So, I mean, this is the big one here. If you don't go out and get... I mean, that was the big part of this, to bargain for your freedom, which you shouldn't have to bargain for your freedom. You should just automatically be free, and then if you want to go off and do what the government wants you to do, that's between you and your government, and you and your family. But the default should always be that you're free. That should always be the default. And yet, we're sitting here in the situation where they're going to come out and tell you that, oh, no, you have to do what we say, otherwise you're going to lose your job. And there was always the big bargaining chip, especially in healthcare. The big bargaining chip was the fact that the system was overtaxed already, that they didn't have enough workers. They didn't have enough people on the ground. Plus, now with the beginning of the commie fucking coup, enough people coming out and calling out sick. There's a reason I don't want to be involved in this medical system. Like, I don't go to the doctor or anything else, mostly because, well, I've made my peace with that on Twitter and Instagram before, but I don't go to the doctor for any reason whatsoever. And this is just pushing me further and further away from it because, I mean, look at this. This is a healthcare system that is ignoring acquired immunity from having the disease. They're ignoring the way, and they're preaching. Either they lied to me in school throughout the entire time I was in school, and that's not actually how vaccines work. They lied to me in the Family Guy PSA, and that's not how vaccines work. Or they're preaching you this completely wrong thing where even if you're fully vaccinated, you could still get sick. I don't know. But regardless, there's this whole medical system is fucked, and the government getting involved in it's not going to help it. But I hope that you like having an army nurse, I guess, if you're up in New York. Or possibly in the rest of the country, because some of these other dictatorial people will probably try to do the same, unless they get their cock smacked by the legislatures that are opposing them. Which is probably going to happen in my state. Let's keep going. Let's talk about finance here. From the Hill. GOP blocks debt limit hike, government funding from Jordan Kearney. Senate Republicans on Monday evening blocked a measure to fund the government and suspend the debt ceiling, carrying through on their threat not to deliver votes for a Democratic measure to raise the government's borrowing limit. The total vote tally was 48 to 50. 60 votes were needed to advance the measure. No Republicans voted for the legislation. The setback is the latest in a slow-motion brawl over how to fund the government and deal with the debt ceiling, which kicked back in on August 1st with the Treasury Department using extraordinary measures since then to keep the government solvent. At what point in our lives, and most of you are about the same age as me, born in 1984, or slightly younger, at what point in our lives has the government ever been solvent? The government wasn't solvent even when the budget was balanced under Clinton. I don't think our government has been solvent since the 50s. I would go back even further than that because we were in the 50s paying for World War II. I don't think the government has been solvent in the last century or further because of World War I. Congress has until the end of Thursday to pass a government funding bill to avoid a shutdown the following day. The deadline for needing to deal with the country's borrowing limit is less definite. Oh, it's less definite now. Oh, don't worry about the debt limit now. You know what they said yesterday when we were talking about this? We will default on our priorities. We will default on our responsibilities on October 1st. We must have the money, and we must have the debt ceiling now. No, don't worry, guys. We just have to worry about the funding now. Now it's not that definite anymore. The debt ceiling, no, that'll be just fine. Fucking blow me. Narrative swilling bitches. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned congressional leadership they might need to take action as soon as next month. Democratic leaders haven't unveiled what the next step will be, but they're vowing to prevent a shutdown on their watch. In order to deliver on that promise, they'll need Republican cooperation to speed up a government funding bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer initially voted to start debate, but switched his vote, a procedural move that allows him to easily bring the measure back up for consideration. I changed my vote from a yes to a no in order to reserve the option of additional action in the House-passed legislation. Keeping the government open and preventing default is vital to our country's future, and we will be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week, Schumer said. If they punt the debt fight for now, they have options on funding the government, either sticking with a December 3rd end date or going with a bill to try to line up with a potential X date in the coming weeks when Congress will have to address the debt ceiling. Yeah, that'll be funny to see them come back in and try to hide that in again, as if Mitch McConnell's not going to sit back and watch it. And I'm actually excited if they do try to kick this back further, because it's suddenly not a priority. But if they try to kick this back further, and now suddenly we get here and the 4chaners and the Redditors sit and sift through this entire funding bill and find all the foreign aid and all the stuff we shouldn't be spending money on, just like the last two big funding bills that we did. Well, I don't want to shut down the government, said Dick Durbin of Illinois, while noting that Schumer has the final say on the strategy. A spokesman for Speaker Pelosi didn't respond to a request for comment, but Pelosi told reporters late last week that we will keep our government open by September 30th, which is our date, and continue the conversation about the debt ceiling, but not for long. Republicans have warned for months, including just hours before Monday's vote, that they won't help Democrats raise or suspend the debt ceiling. Democrats voted with Republicans during the Trump administration to suspend the debt ceiling, which was wrong. They shouldn't have done that, as part of a larger funding package. For more than 2 months... Oh, this is McConnell. We got to do the Turtle Man voice. For more than 2 months now, the Senate Republicans have been completely clear about how this process will play out. So, let me continue to make it abundantly clear, one more move, and we will support a clean continuing resolution that will prevent a government shutdown. We will not provide Republican votes for raising the debt ceiling, and said Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. McConnell and other GOP senators tried to bring up the short-term funding bill without the debt hike, but Democrats blocked the attempt. Democrats, meanwhile, tried to ramp up pressure on Republicans, warning that by shooting down the House-passed bill, they are pushing the country closer to a default. Although the U.S. government has never defaulted, a similar standoff in 2011 resulted in the S&P 500 stripping the United States of its longtime AAA credit rating. Schumer called the GOP position unhinged, arguing that there was a choice between preserving our full faith in credit or vote in favor of an unprecedented default. They are deliberately sabotaging the country's ability to pay the bills and likely causing the country's first ever default in American history. 64 House Democrats, including Steny Hoyer, sent a letter to McConnell on Monday arguing that Republicans are risking the country's economic recovery after it took a massive hit last year when businesses closed during the coronavirus restrictions. Holding the debt limit hostage is dangerous, illogical, and an irresponsible way to express that concern, the Democratic lawmakers wrote. You know what? Good. And I love the fact that there are so many people out there that look at the fact that we might default on the debt and say, good. Enjoy it. You spent all this money, now you sit back and enjoy it. And yes, there are going to be major repercussions to this coming out throughout the work sector. I do anticipate that a lot of the federal workers will probably lose their jobs over this. As far as the private sector goes, I mean, we can still exchange currency back and forth with each other as long as the currency stays solvent, which that's another story for another topic. But, I mean, this is good stuff. It's good that people are looking at this and saying, why do we need the government? If the government can't go and pay its own bills without raising the debt ceiling entirely, good, let it shut down, let it default. I'm excited to see that. But I'm looking at this, and I think I know what's going to happen off of this. I actually do. What we're going to see is, and this is like I talked during the finance section, where Nancy Pelosi is now backing off whether or not she has to have the infrastructure bill linked to the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation. Because I think that the budget reconciliation is dead. I think that she is going to cave to Mitch McConnell. They're going to go ahead. They're going to make a clean funding bill. They're going to get McConnell on board with it, and he's going to say, "Okay, well, we'll get enough Republicans. We'll pass this here because it doesn't have the debt ceiling increase." And then Democrats will use their budget reconciliation on the debt ceiling increase instead. I anticipate that's what's about to happen. Which, really, honestly, if I'm looking at this here, because I'm looking at the progressives right now. I'm not looking at Pelosi, the war hawk neocon or neoliberal. I'm neocon, neoliberal, same fucking thing. But I'm not looking at her at this point and saying, okay, she has the power to do this or that or anything else. I'm looking at the squad. Your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's probably going to fall in line with Pelosi because that's going to be what makes her the most money. But your Ilhan Omar, your Rashida Tlaib, your Jerome Bowers, your people like that. If the House loses 6 votes on the infrastructure bill is also torpedoed. And therefore, Joe Biden gets absolutely none of his agenda done in his first midterm. In the first half of his first term of his presidency. In the midst of him failing and doing everything else that he's failing on. So there appears to be strategy here, and it appears to be working, which is, I think, good. If they want it, then then they can use their budget reconciliation for this. I also love the fact that there's 6,193 shares to this. Because all the leftoids looked at this and said, oh, we've got to go run it and tell everybody how bad and evil Mitch McConnell is. And it's really funny to me because a tweet surfaced from Nancy Pelosi earlier on today saying, oh, well, Republicans hold the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And the government shutdown is on them entirely because they hold all three of those. I guarantee you that's not going to be her position. When we sit back here and we talk about what's going to happen next. I guarantee she's not going to have that same position then. But that's what we see coming out of that. Let's grab one from the Associated Press. GOP blocks bill to keep government going. New try ahead from Lisa Mascaro and Zeke Miller. Republican senators blocked a bill Monday night to keep the government operating and allow federal borrowing, but Democrats aiming to avert a shutdown pledged to try again, at the same time pressing ahead on President Biden's big plans to reshape the government. The efforts are not necessarily linked, but the fiscal year-end deadline to fund the government past Thursday is bumping up against Democrats' desire to make progress on Biden's expansive $3.5 trillion overhaul. It's all making for a tumultuous moment for Biden and his party, with consequences certain to shape his presidency and the lawmakers' own political futures. Success would mean a landmark accomplishment if Democrats can helm Biden's big bill for passage. Failure, or a highly unlikely government shutdown and debt crisis, could derail careers. You know me, man. I'm a born optimist, Biden told reporters on Monday as he rolled up his sleeve for a COVID-19 booster shot. Yeah, we'll be talking about that in just a second, too. We're going to get it done. And for the rest of this, we go back to our review on everything else that was in the Hill article. But yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. I look at this, I look at the situation, I look at the politics that are coming off of this, and that's what everything is pointing to. Nancy knows that she can't get the $3.5 trillion reconciliation passed because they're going to have to wind up using the reconciliation to go and do the debt ceiling. As far as the government shutdown goes, we will see what happens for that, but the worst part of the government shutdown is that they're going to eventually open it back up. So that's what we see from that. Biden is playing with himself. Oh, playing himself. I would believe the first one too. Speaking of people who are getting pushback on them, reading from the New York Times. Sinema is back in the crosshairs once again. As Sinema resists the budget bill, she is set to raise money from business groups that oppose it. From Jonathan Weissman. Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, the inscrutable Democrat who may hold the key to passing her party's ambitious social policy and climate bill, is scheduled to have a fundraiser on Tuesday afternoon with 5 businesses, a lobbying group, many of which fiercely oppose the bill. Under Ms. Sinema's political logo, the influential National Association of Wholesaler Distributors and the Grocers PAC, along with lobbyists for roofers, electrical contractors, and small business group called the S-Corp Political Action Committee, have invited association members to an undisclosed location on Tuesday afternoon for 45 minutes to write checks for between $1,000 and $5,800, payable to Sinema for Arizona. Full vaccinations for the coronavirus will be required according to the invitation. Why does that matter? The planned event comes during a make-or-break week for President Biden's agenda when House Democrats are trying to pass a $1 trillion infrastructure bill that Ms. Sinema helped negotiate and trying to nail down the details of a social policy and climate bill that could spend as much as $3.5 trillion over the next decade. Ms. Sinema said she cannot support a bill so large and privately told Senate Democrat colleagues that she is averse to the corporate and individual tax rates increases in both the House and Senate tax writing committees that had planned to use to help pay for the measure. In both positions, she's likely to find a receptive audience at the fundraiser. The S-Corp PAC, for instance, has told its members and the rate increases in the package that passed the House Ways and Means Committee would kneecap private companies like theirs that pay taxes through the individual tax system, not the corporate tax system. Eric Hopland, the chief executive of the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors, which buy products from manufacturers at wholesale rates and distribute them to retailers, said in a statement earlier this month, passing the largest tax increase in the U.S. history on the backs of American jobs creators as they recover from a global pandemic is the last thing Washington should be doing. In a lengthy message to members this month, Robert Yeakel, the Director of Government Relations at the National Grocers Association, went over a laundry list of tax hikes that Democrats are contemplating. Which, I mean, all of this stuff is important, and we need to watch this because that's going to be on your groceries, that's going to be on your gas, that's going to be on what you get from the convenience store, your big screen TV, the computer you have to buy, that's going to be on all of the same stuff. So what they're pointing out is actually important to watch. It's important to see. But this is the New York Times trying to kneecap Sinema so she doesn't get her re-election. They're going to go back. I've seen people on Twitter coming out and say, we're going to go into purple Arizona, which is not fucking purple. We're going to go into Arizona and we're going to elect a real Democrat, not Kyrsten Sinema. So she has pissed a lot of people off, and we will see what happens with that. All right. I might want to move something else here. Yeah, I want to move this up here, actually. So let's move this up here to the top, because this is more relevant to what we're talking about than what we're going on with. So, given the fact that, yes, we just talked about the fact that small businesses are concerned that their taxes are going to go up, which means their cost of doing business is going to go up, let's listen to Psaki here and see what she has to say. Psaki says it's unfair and absurd that companies would raise costs for consumers due to higher taxes, from Ryan Saavedra. White House red-haired bobblehead Jen Psaki claimed during Monday's press briefing that it would be unfair and absurd for companies to raise costs on consumers in response to the Biden admin raising the corporate tax rate. Psaki made the remarks during the following interaction with a reporter. Let's listen.
I want to ask you about what Republicans are pointing to in the analysis from the Joint Committee on Taxation. They say, according to, if I've read the chart correctly, more than 16% of taxpayers would see their taxes increase under the bill that's approved by the House Ways and Means Committee. Will the president sign that bill as it is coming out of that committee, or will he insist on the changes so that he will maintain his commitment that taxes won't go up on people making $400,000 a year?
I have not looked at the document or the report that you have put out. Obviously, the president, or that you have referenced, I should say, that the Republicans put out. Obviously, the president's commitment remains not raising taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. There are some, and I'm not sure if this is the case in this report, who argue that in the past, companies have passed on these costs to consumers. I'm not sure if that's the argument being made in this report. We feel that that's unfair and absurd, and the American people would not stand for that. But I will take a closer look at this report and get you a more substantive response. Go ahead, Jackie.
It's not fair. It's not fair that business leaders will pass their costs on because they have to pass their costs on and everything else. We just want to hit the business leaders. We want to hit it out of their pockets. We're not supposed to do this out of the customer pocket. Fucking spare me. Where do you think that money comes from? What do you keep saying? The richest people in the world. Where do you think that fucking money comes from? Seriously, no, that's a serious question. Where do you people think that this money comes from? Because you know where it comes from? It comes from you and me. When we look at this, and you know, the big example is guy walking down the street barefoot says, I have all this currency in my hand, but I have no shoes. What should I do? And the cobbler comes out and says, I have these fantastic shoes, but I have not enough currency. Would you like to exchange them? So yes, that is going to go across to the customers. Did they think it wasn't? But regardless, that's where we go for that. Let's grab one from the Hill. Shifting gears here, let's talk about General Milley. Milley calls for expanded communications between U.S. and Russian militaries, from Ellen Mitchell. U.S. and Russian forces should increase their communication to help prevent a possible future conflict between Washington and Moscow, according to a Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, General Mark Milley. It's important to have an effective means of military-to-military communication in order to clearly understand each other's positions on very difficult issues and develop a relationship where we are candid and professional, which in times of crisis can become a very important means in order to try and de-escalate any kind of crisis situation. Milley told reporters traveling with him after he met with Russian counterpart in Finland last week, according to the Wall Street Journal. Milley, who has recently been embroiled in a political firestorm over a report that he assured his Chinese counterpart that he would warn him of any U.S. attack following former President Trump's election loss, said, adding that to already established lines of communication would help each side better understand each other's moves. Currently, only senior military leaders such as Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Milley, and the Supreme Allied Commander for Europe can reach out to the Russian military, Milley said, according to the Associated Press. But should the U.S. government allow its military service chiefs to speak with their Russian counterparts, something that's currently not allowed, the U.S. defense officials could contact Moscow's generals to avoid conflict wherever there are tensions. Now, see, I thought Russia was the greatest enemy in the world because they hacked the U.S. election. And Biden had to come up and say, hey, come on, man, I had to tell Putin that if he messed around with our election again, I was going to go take him up behind the woodshed. Come on, man. So, given that definition, even though we're not officially at war with Russia, but they are considered to be an enemy, wouldn't that be treason? I mean, it's not nearly as bad as what he did for China, but wouldn't that be treason? Falling under the same idea? I don't know, but there's more of this coming out of the White House from the Daily Wire. Report, White House told General Milley to pursue Russia's help in combating terrorism in Afghanistan after U.S. withdrawal. From Tim Pierce. No video, of course. You always got to check the Daily Wire one for video, because they generally have one. General Mark Milley, the top military officer in the U.S., reportedly spoke with his Russian counterpart about an offer from the Kremlin to aid the U.S. in responding to terror threats in Afghanistan. The Kremlin apparently offered the Biden admin the opportunity to let the U.S. military base use Russian bases in the Middle East to respond to terror threats now that the U.S. has withdrawn forces from Afghanistan, according to the Wall Street Journal. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, contacted Russian Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov about the offer at the request of President Biden and the U.S. National Security Council. The previously unreported exchange comes as the Biden admin is searching for ways to strengthen its capability to monitor and respond to potential terrorist dangers in Afghanistan now that the U.S. forces have left the country, Wall Street Journal reports. While the U.S. and Russia share concerns about the threat of terrorism, the idea of working with the Russian counterterrorism is fraught with challenges, particularly politically. Congress enacted legislation several years ago that precludes close cooperation between the U.S. and Russian militaries as long as Russian troops are in the Ukraine, unless the Secretary of Defense issues a special waiver, the outlet continued. News about the Russian meeting comes as lawmakers prepare to hear testimony from Milley, as well as Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on Tuesday, over Biden admin's rapid and chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Milley, in particular, is expected to face hard questions from lawmakers over his role in Afghanistan and his judgment over reported conversations he had with the Chinese in the final weeks of the Trump admin. Long story short, we'll probably cover that on a contemporary, but that's not going to go anywhere. That's going to be a gigantic nothing. The Washington Post's Bob Woodward and Robert Costa revealed that Milley had allegedly called his Chinese counterpart, General Li Zuocheng, twice in the final month of the Trump admin. On the second call, Milley said he would send a warning if then-President Trump ordered a surprise attack on the Chinese. And once again, just in case our friend Brave Dave is listening, at what point did we start taking everything that Bob Woodward says as gospel? There's a lot of shady shit happening in this administration. And I have a lot of questions. Why are we talking about using Russian military bases? Why are we still staying in the region even if we're not staying in Afghanistan? What could possibly be out there? What could be advantageous? And why are we aiding and abetting Russia? Because they're supposed to be this gigantic global threat who can come in and change the election at will and install an evil orange dictator. instead of the rightful first woman president? I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. From CNBC, Biden receives COVID booster shot live on camera. From Christina Wilkie and Berkeley Loveless Jr. President Biden received a COVID-19 booster shot on Monday in accordance with the latest guidance from the CDC. At 78 years old, Biden qualified for the additional shot under new guidance issued late last week. Biden received his first Pfizer vaccine shot late last year and his second shot in January. Boosters are important, man, but the most important thing we need to do is get more people vaccinated, Biden said prior to receiving his injection. The vast majority of Americans are doing the right thing. Over 77% of adults have gotten at least one shot, he said. About 23% haven't gotten any shots, and that distinct minority is causing an awful lot of damage for the rest of the country. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's why I'm moving forward with the vaccination requirements wherever I can. Okay, you're still pulling all these cases, and 70% of the country, over 70%, because 100 minus 23, that's 77. 77% of the country is vaccinated. Your goal was 70%. Your goal was 70%. And now 77% is apparently vaccinated. You keep moving the fucking goalposts. And then you still try to come out and tell us this is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Statistically, you're more likely to get infected by a vaccinated person than an unvaccinated person. And yes, they can still carry the virus and spread it. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky on Friday authorized the distribution of Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 booster shots for those in high-risk occupational and institutional settings, a move that overruled an advisory panel. Walensky also approved distributing booster shots to older Americans and adults with underlying medical conditions at least 6 months after their first series of shots, in line with the advisory panel. So, yeah, there he is out there. Let's see. 2-minute video. Yeah, let's watch this. I think we can watch this one. I think this will be just fine. Maybe.
You're eligible for a booster if it's been 6 months since your second Pfizer shot, and if you fall into one of these categories. People over 65, which is hard to acknowledge, adults, I'm only joking, folks, adults with certain underlying health conditions like diabetes and obesity, and those who are at increased risk of COVID-19 because of where you work or where you live, like healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, grocery store clerks. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, looked at all the data, completed their review, and determined the boosters for the Pfizer vaccine, others will come later, maybe, I assume, but the Pfizer vaccine are safe and effective. They've had all the data they need.
All right, I don't want to listen to him anymore. It's hard to imagine somebody over 65. I'm only joking, folks. Come on, man. So yes, he went up and got it live on camera, too. But so did the Turtle Man. McConnell gets booster, calls it easy decision, from Justine Coleman. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he received the COVID-19 booster shot on Monday, calling his choice to get the third dose an easy decision. The 79-year-old senator announced that he got the booster dose while on the Senate floor, hours after President Biden received his third shot. I'm so glad to share that a few months ago I received a booster vaccination for COVID-19, McConnell said. All throughout the pandemic, I have followed the best advice from experts, and especially from my own healthcare providers. It was an easy decision to receive a booster. McConnell's booster vaccine comes after the CDC last week approved a third Pfizer-BioNTech dose for those aged 65 and older and adults with underlying medical conditions 6 months after their second shot. And the government funnels even more of your taxpayer money into Big Pharma. In his speech, the Senate Minority Leader labeled himself a lifelong champion of vaccines, citing his survival of polio during his childhood and his advocacy for the COVID-19 vaccine. The Senate Minority Leader has been outspoken in promoting COVID-19 vaccines, while other Republicans, including some GOP lawmakers, have refused or been more hesitant to get their initial shots. Mountains of evidence tell us these shots are safe, effective, and dramatically shrink the odds of severe disease or death from COVID, he said. Let's listen to the turtle.
It was an easy decision to receive a booster. I'm a survivor of childhood polio from before vaccines. Before vaccines eradicated that disease here in our country and around the world now. So I've been a lifelong champion of vaccinations.
Which, okay, and I'm going to be completely fair about this. This is going to be another unpopular opinion among my viewers, but as far as like Biden and McConnell getting this, I mean, Biden is 78 years old and he's got something else going on with him. Constantly coughing with something else going on. So for him to go back and get this, especially given the fact that he is the leader, in spite of the fact there's people pulling the strings, but he is the leader of the free world. So-called Hong Kong. I have no problem. Like, if he wants to go and get this, I'm not going to judge him for going and getting it. I think that's perfectly acceptable for him to go and get the vaccine, the second vaccine and the third booster shot, because he is in an at-risk category. It's the boomer remover, and he's even older than a boomer. He's in the silent generation. And then, now on top of this, now we've got McConnell, who is older than Biden still, and is a survivor of polio, which tells me that he's also probably got some level of immune compromisation. For him to go get the shot, I don't see that as a bad thing. If he wants to do it, if he doesn't want to do it, he can go home and watch The Price is Right. But if he wants to have the shot, then I don't see an issue with it. He fits all the category once again. The boomer remover. He's old. He's ancient. He's had polio. It's not going to convince me to go and get it. I don't want it. I barely take aspirin. But that's how they're going to virtue signal. Reading from ABC 7. Pfizer testing pill aimed at preventing COVID-19 infection. Coming to ABC 7 out of Los Angeles from the Associated Press. Pfizer, the Pfizer Corporation. I still think of that King of the Hill episode. Yeah, I looked through Bill's medical records. It looks like he was given a heavy dose of the deadly drug placebo. I think it's made by the Pfizer Corporation. Pfizer has started testing its potential COVID-19 treatment as preventative medicine aimed at warding off the virus if close contact gets it. The drug maker says it will study the pill it is developing in combination with a low dose of the HIV drug ritonavir in people who are at least 18 years old and live in the same household as someone who is infected. The pill aims to block a key enzyme the virus needs to replicate. Pfizer plans to enroll 2660 people in the late-stage study. What do you want to bet your taxpayer dollars are going to pay for this, too, to get distributed en masse? Researchers expect that the use of ritonavir will help slow the breakdown of the potential treatment, so it remains active longer to help the virus. And that's it. That's all they have. So now you get your first vaccine, your second vaccine, all government paid for, or your first vaccine if it's Johnson & Johnson, your Pfizer booster, all government paid for, and now a pill on top of this. By the way, I'm probably not going to take that pill either. I'm going to tell you. And this is, like, we saw the tweet that came out a few days ago where somebody tweeted out and said, if you don't trust the vaccine, explain do you trust the monoclonal antibodies? Please explain why. I said, no. They're just as experimental and new as the vaccine. Possibly more experimental and newer. I don't trust Remdesivir. I don't trust Regeneron. Fuck, I won't take hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. I barely take Tylenol, you guys. I'm sitting here suffering with a runny nose, which seems to have cleared up enough at this point, but I'm sitting here suffering with a runny nose while there is a half bottle of Zyrtec sitting in the cabinet that's 10 feet away from me. Mostly because I know that it'll knock me on my ass and I still have to go and do some work today, which includes operating a heavy vehicle. No. Another drug, another way. And like I say, this is probably going to be another thing that's government paid for. Oh, hey, government, we need a bunch of money to pay for all these doses we're going to send out to people. Once we test somebody positive in the household for this, they've all got to come back and take this. Oh, there's a no-bid contract for this, so you definitely just have to pay for all of this that we want to get. All right. Shifting gears here, talking about the immigration crisis. Some more video, too. From the Blaze video, liberal protesters confront Biden's DHS secretary at his home and demand he stop deportations. Why do you got to do it at the homes, you guys? I mean, I appreciate the equal opportunity of it because you're going out and going to the homes of people that you're supposed to like, but don't do it at people's homes. Go to his office. It's public property. Illegal immigrant advocates targeted the home of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for a protest over the immigration policies they say are an extension of former President Trump's policies. Video posted to the social media account of Never Again Action showed protesters at Mayorkas' home with a 30-foot banner accusing him of continuing policies of the previous administration. There's the picture. Breaking: DHS Secretary Mayorkas oversees ICE, Border Patrol, and the rest of Biden's immigration agenda. We just covered his house with a 30-foot emergency blanket banner. Speaking the truth on immigration, the Biden presidency is a continuation of the Trump policy. Where the fuck did you get all that money for a 30-foot space blanket? Who is funneling money into your organization that you can get a 30-foot space blanket? Seriously. Never Again Action describes itself as a group of Jews, immigrants, and allies banding together to abolish the the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. In another video, protesters appear to confront Mayorkas and his wife in front of their Washington, D.C. home. Let's watch.
I'm here today because families are being ripped apart. Families belong together. Families belong together. Families belong together. Families belong together.
That's Mayorkas' wife.
I'm sorry. Where do families belong again? I didn't quite catch that. Let's listen again.
I'm here today because families are being ripped apart. Families belong together. Families belong together. Families belong together. Families belong together. Families belong
That's
together.
Mayorkas' wife.
In a statement issued by the organization, they specifically point to the Title 42 policy, which the Trump admin deported many migrants seeking refugee status out of the country while their application was processed. Biden also used the same rationale to deport Haitian migrants who showed up by the thousands in Del Rio, Texas, asking for refugee status. Uh-oh. Did we lose the music? Oh, I guess there must be an extended silence at the end of this track. Anyway. I mean, again, I do appreciate the equal opportunity of this. I really do, but, you know, don't do it at their homes. Don't do it at their homes. I do like, though, that they're calling this out. I actually do. Not because I'm against deportation. I am a very closed borders libertarian, even though I'm not a libertarian. If I were to consider myself, because I do hang around with a lot of people on Liberty Twitter, and as opposed to them, I'm very close borders. I do want people to be able to come over, but I want there to be a process. So they're not just wandering across the border and running. Because, like I've said, if you import the entire third world at once, which is what would happen if you completely threw that border wide open, because they'd be coming from Sri Lanka, from Mexico, from Guatemala. It wouldn't just be from the Northern Triangle. It would be from all over the world. If you import the entire third world at once, you can kiss those wages and pretty much your ability to make a living goodbye. Because they, especially given the fact that these same people also want to abolish the minimum wage, and suddenly you'll import a bunch of people who believe that 25 cents an hour is a pay raise. What do you think is going to happen to the American way of life at that point? Or the ability to do anything at all? But I do enjoy the fact that these same people are looking at this, and, you know, the whole kids in cages, the boarded detentions, the Donna facility, that's all been ignored under the news media and this administration. They're waiting for another Trump administration before they can drag the kids in cages back out again. And now we see this Never Again Action Committee coming out and saying, oh, no, this is actually still happening. Stop ignoring it. Do something about it. You made a promise. All right, from CBS. China says UK warship in Taiwan Strait shows evil intentions. So that region of the world is going to start getting worse. China bristled Monday over Britain's decision to send a Royal Navy warship sailing through the sensitive Taiwan Strait, saying the act harbored evil intentions. China claims democratically ruled Taiwan as its own territory and has increased pressure on the small island to recent years to accept Beijing as its capital. Oh, Beijing is its capital, but not for the reasons that you think. West Taiwan. The Royal Navy announced that the HMS Richmond, a frigate deployed as part of the UK aircraft carrier strike group, was sailing through Taiwan Strait on Monday in a move that challenges Beijing's claim to the sensitive waterway. After a busy period working with partners and allies in the East China Sea, we're now en route through the Taiwan Strait to visit Vietnam and the Vietnam People's Navy, read a tweet from the official account for the HMS Richmond. Why does the HMS Richmond have its own official Twitter account? Local media said it was the first time a British warship had transited through the narrow waterway separating Taiwan and West Taiwan. However, the British Navy survey ship HMS Enterprise transited through the strait in 2019. The UK Defense Ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment. US warships conduct regular freedom of navigation exercises in the strait, all of which trigger angry responses from Beijing, which claims not only Taiwan but the surrounding waters, along with almost all of the South China Sea, as its territory. The US and most other countries view those areas as international waters that should be open to all vessels. China's initial response to the British warship's passage was muted on Monday, with Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying telling reporters that Beijing hoped that relevant countries can do more to build mutual trust between countries and uphold peace and security in the region. But shortly after, the Chinese Army's Eastern Theater Command said it had sent air and naval forces to shadow the Richmond and warn it to leave the strait. This coming as, and I didn't want to grab this one either because I couldn't independently verify that one, but apparently the US is coming here talking about the fact that China could make a move on Taiwan in the next year. So there's definitely some stuff over in the Southeast Asian Sea that we need to come back and watch. So we'll continue to watch this. From the Daily Wire. Governor Abbott bypasses Biden on life-saving antibody care, obtains doses for Texas outside of the ration. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced Monday that he has obtained doses of the life-saving antibody treatment on his own, bypassing President Biden's move to take control of the care and ration doses as he sees fit. Greg Abbott says Texas is bypassing Biden admin's restriction on monoclonal antibody treatments by procuring them direct from the provider, radio host Dana Lash posted on Monday afternoon. Austin Bureau Chief for the Dallas Morning News, Bob Garrett, detailed Governor Abbott says Texas has obtained its own supply of Regeneron despite roadblocks from the Biden admin. From drug wholesaler AmerisourceBergen, state purchasing directly, Abbott tells Dana Lash, consider this treatment, he tells people testing positive for COVID-19. Last week, Ron DeSantis did the same thing, similarly obtained his own doses of the life-saving care for Floridians, bypassing Biden. The governor posted a video on Thursday announcing the move, captioned, Governor DeSantis announces the acquisition of additional doses of monoclonal antibody treatments to counteract the federal government's reducing of Florida's supply of Regeneron monoclonal treatments. So, good. More federalism. We don't need the federal government to do all this bullshit. And governors and the people are starting to wake up and realize this. You can't convince the leftoids yet, but they are starting to wake up and realize that you don't need the government to hold your hand and do every fucking thing for you. And that's good. If you want a government, it should be as localized as possible. And we had this argument because I'm not a libertarian. Quest Fanning pointed out that I'm a federalist. If you want a government, and I mean, I'm a big advocate of you can have as much government as you want as long as you keep the fucker over there. It's just like shitting on your lawn. If my neighbor wants to shit on his lawn, he can do so all the time. He just has to keep it over in his yard. I don't want it in my yard. And it's the same thing with government. If you want a government, that's fine. If you don't think you can do it on your own, enjoy. Have as much government as you want. Just keep it far away from me. Keep it over there. Bye-bye. No. Off my lawn. Done. Because I just kind of want to sit here and talk into my microphone to you guys. The treatment has been found to reduce hospitalizations and death from COVID by a stunning 70%, with almost no side effects based on preliminary findings in recent studies. It's also been shown to shorten the duration of symptoms by 4 days. So, good. Good on them. Absolutely good on them. From AZ Central. In a sweeping ruling, Arizona judge finds ban on school mask mandates and other laws and budget unconstitutional. From Mary Jo Pitzel. School districts in Arizona can enact their own mask and vaccine standards as a result of a sweeping court ruling issued Monday that found portions of 4 state budget-related bills unconstitutional. Whether that will happen is unclear. However, within hours of the ruling, Republican legislative leaders and Attorney General Mark Brnovich vowed to immediately appeal. Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Catherine Cooper determined the legislature violated Arizona Constitution when it packed numerous policy issues into the $12.8 billion budget package. Her ruling affects not just masks and vaccine limitations, but also laws regarding the teaching of controversial topics, election-related changes, various COVID-19 protocols for universities, community colleges, local governments, and a host of other provisions, most of which is probably pork-laden. Single-issue bills only. The intent of the budget-related bills, which contain these policies, was to relate to the spending allowed in the budget, Cooper said. I actually agree with that. It was not to enact laws prohibiting mask mandates, regulating school curriculum, or authorizing special interest projects unrelated to the budget or budget reconciliation, Cooper wrote. So, as far as the mask mandate thing is, that should be a local thing. I don't agree with having a mask mandate, but that should always be a local decision as to whether or not you have one. As local of a government as possible should be making that decision, not a state government, not a federal government, and that's for both pro and against vaccine or mask mandates. Well, vaccine mandates too. If a government has to do it, it should be as local as possible so you can look at your alderman at the grocery store and say, hey, Bill, what the fuck? Why are you making this mandate? Do you understand what this is going to do to my family? We don't believe in this bullshit. What the fuck, Bill? Seriously. I thought you were my friend. Are you still going to come over and play euchre tomorrow? That's why this should all be local, so you can look the lawmakers in the eye. That being said, I do agree with this decision as far as the budget reconciliation goes, because I mean, yes, it's coming from the Republican side, but it's still a lot of pork stuffing into a bill that had nothing to do with the mask mandates, the school curriculum, or anything else. Single issue bills. Put a single issue on the bill, put no pork in there, and let the people who elect your representatives decide if that's something they want to get behind or not. And that's a big part of the problem is now the right wing in this country, oh, we see all the pork that the left wing is trying to stuff into budget reconciliations. We're going to do it too. And it's nothing new out of Washington. Or Phoenix is the capital of Arizona, right? Why am I blanking on this? Madison, that's the same way with St. Paul. That's the same thing with... why am I blanking on my fucking state capitals today? I used to know all these. But it's the same thing out of Albany. It's the same thing out of Tallahassee. It's the same thing out of Richmond. It's the same thing out of all these other state houses too. And even a little bit on the local houses. They look at this, they try to stuff as much pork in because it's a must pass because it's a budget. And that shit just needs to stop and go away. Let's talk about this one here. So Golden Leaf left this in the Discord for me so I can go back and see what was going on with this. California to ban state-sponsored travel to Ohio due to recent laws allowing medical providers to deny care to LGBTQ Ohioans. Starting this week, California will restrict state-funded travel to Ohio as a result of the provision on Ohio's 2-year budget passed July 1st that allows medical providers in the state to deny care to LGBTQ patients. See, here's another thing that didn't belong in a budget bill. Single-issue bill. The ban begins September 30th, according to a news release from California's AG Rob Bonta. Blocking access to life-saving care is wrong, period, the news release says, whether it's denying a prescription for medication that prevents the spread of HIV, refusing to provide gender-affirming care, or undermining a woman's right to choose, Ohio HB 110 unnecessarily puts the health of Americans at risk. Ohio is the 18th state to be added to California's list of restricted state-sponsored travel. In July, when Mike DeWine was questioned by reporters about why he did not veto the care-denying provision from the 2-year budget, he minimized the issue. People are not going to be discriminated against in regards to medical care, DeWine said. We have a vibrant medical care system in the state of Ohio. We have great doctors, we have great nurses, we have great systems. This is not a problem. It has not been a problem in the state of Ohio, and I do not expect it to be a problem, DeWine continued. Ohio's major associations representing hospitals, doctors, and health insurance providers, as well as LGBTQ rights groups, oppose the provisions. So I'm not sure what this actual provision is. I'll have to look into this more. But I mean, California state government officials are not allowed to do and conduct business for the state of California in 16 states in this country. That's a little bit unnerving. Not that I really want them out here for any reason whatsoever, but the fact that they feel so strongly about this union that they're not allowing people to go to a full third of the country is a little bit concerning. That actually makes me wonder what the hell is going on over there. All right, let's keep going here. From the New York Post. White woman accused of telling black couple to stay in your hood denies racial undertones. Now, I haven't seen this video because I thought this was stupid. But this is the 3rd day in a row people are talking about it, so I guess we need to cover it. From Mark Lungariello, there we go. A white woman who came under fire for telling a black couple to stay in your hood during a spat in Brooklyn dog park denied Monday that her comments had any racial undertones. Emma Sarley, who was booted from her job amid a social media backlash to the viral video of Saturday's confrontation in McCarran Park in Williamsburg, added that she was sorry for her brief and thoughtless moment. My reference back to your hood only referred to another dog park outside of his neighborhood park, Sarley said in a statement to the Post. I was frustrated and upset, but to be clear, I had no intended racial undertones in my comments whatsoever. I said it because it's an unstated rule at a local park that when a dog is being aggressive, owners immediately remove them so it can be a calm, welcoming environment for everybody else. which that, by the way, is reasonable. If your dog is being a little bit aggressive, whether it's a fluke or whether it's a permanent thing, if your dog is being a little bit aggressive, you should kind of watch where it goes in the public park, because you want that park to be available to everybody. It's not just one dog's territory. However, I fully understand how my words could have been interpreted, and I deeply wish I had chosen them more carefully, she said. A brief and thoughtless moment in my life has now led to a nationwide outrage and hurt. For that I am sorry. In the statement issued through a public relations firm, Sarli said she absolutely accepts responsibility for how I could have handled things differently in the moment. Sarli also claimed that she never threatened to call the police during the confrontation, as she was accused of doing, nor went on a tirade. As the dog owners followed me down the street with a phone camera on, I was filled with some panic because I've never been in an altercation like this and reacted in an inappropriate way, she said. That's what you witnessed on that tape. I've lived in New York City for a decade. My Brooklyn neighborhood and dog park is extremely diverse, something I truly love about the city, and I never meant for my words to contribute to pain for anyone, she added. I truly hope we can find understanding and peaceful resolution for this for everybody involved. Hang on, we gotta take care of something. You can sit and think about that for 10 minutes. You can sit and think about what you've done for 10 minutes. No name calling. But yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, go back to your hood. Pretty sure I know what she meant by that. As much as she tries to backpedal, I know what she meant by that. All right, from Gizmodo. Bitcoin bros and nuclear bros have found common cause. From Shoshana Wodinsky. Crypto mining is a wildly energy-intensive endeavor that doesn't only pump out more carbon emissions than some small countries, but is quickly racking up a small mountain range's worth of electronic waste. Now, apparently, we can add radioactive waste to Bitcoin's list of unfortunate environmental side effects. According to the Wall Street Journal, a number of Bitcoin miners are striking up deals with local nuclear power plants. While nuclear is a carbon-free source of power for mining rigs, there are likely better uses of those electrons. A handful of Bitcoin miners have sought money-making deals with some of the country's struggling nuclear power plants. The Journal writes, one company, the Pennsylvania-based Talon Energy Corporation, told the paper that it recently entered a joint venture with TeraWulf, a Bitcoin operation that bills itself as the answer to next-generation carbon Bitcoin mining. Whatever that means, according to the report, TeraWulf's new mining facility will be parked next to Talon's Pennsylvania plant and also be the size of 4 football fields. With the U.S. nuclear fleet floundering as reactors reach and even past retirement age, Bitcoin mining could offer a way to keep that operating. There are other options, though, including state-led bailouts that would keep emissions-free electricity floating as the world races to install enough renewables to clean up the grid. Some states that try to woo Bitcoin miners in an attempt to boost their economies and nuclear power has played a key role in the sales pitch, noted Bitcoin fanboy and mayor Miami Francis Suarez. For example, confirmed to Bloomberg that his office has been approaching crypto mining companies with the prospect of setting up their operations alongside South Florida's Turkey Point nuclear power plant. It's worth noting that here last month, the South Florida Sun-Sentinel reported on Turkey's Point's many safety issues, which includes multiple staff members being fired over the past year for forging safety inspections. So Godspeed to Suarez and his pitch. Bitcoin has developed a reputation for guzzling electricity and relying on the cheapest available sources, many of which are heavily polluting. China's coal plants keep the GPUs churning for the majority of the world's mining operations until the country began cracking down on Bitcoin. Natural gas plants have recently become mining hubs in upstate New York, though it burns cleaner than coal in terms of carbon dioxide. Gas is also a major source of methane, a more potent greenhouse gas the world's leading scientists recently sounded the alarm about. because they realized that all this carbon dioxide was making the forest more lush and lush, so they had to find a new boogeyman for this. Cow fart, okay, puppy? Cow fart, they're going to be the end of the world. As far as Bitcoin goes, I mean, a lot of people pointed out the fact that, yes, it does glow in the dark very, very much. It's a very glowy thing, and the federal government has their hands into it, as well as many other local governments off of this. I don't have any Bitcoin. I am interested in cryptocurrency in general, just not that one. Like, I have some Doge, obviously. You know, you guys all know that I have some Doge, a little bit. Not a lot, a little bit of Doge. I am very interested in getting some Ethereum. And I mean, even if I got the wallet out there, which I need, somebody needs to show me how to do, and one of you guys donated some Bitcoin to me, I would probably take it out and put it into like Ethereum or something, or Cardano or something else. Because there's just so much hype around Bitcoin. It's a really good measure of how inflation is doing and how the economy is going. But because that's one thing to note about Bitcoin, is when a lot of people sell it off, the value goes down. And as people are losing their jobs, the people who are holding the Bitcoin, like the individuals who are holding the Bitcoin, not the big mining corporations like we're seeing out of here, but the individuals who hold Bitcoin are selling them up so they can buy groceries. They're going and selling it off because, hey, I could keep this Bitcoin and keep it for a retirement, or I could get rid of it and buy groceries for my family for the week. And I think we are starting to see a lot of that. But yeah, I would probably turn around and put it all into Cardano or something else like that instead. But that's what we see coming out of that. Just a couple more here, and then we'll do Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. We've got another one here from NPR for you guys. John Hinckley, who shot President Reagan, wins unconditional release. This is from Gary Johnson. And remember, NPR needs our money, comrade. So hit that donate button, because your taxpayer money is not enough. They need more donations to get the ultra-quiet microphones to spread their communist ideals. NPR, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what Gary Johnson has to say. A federal judge has approved the unconditional release next year of John Hinckley Jr., who wounded President Reagan and 3 others outside a Washington, D.C. hotel in a failed assassination attempt in 1981. Hinckley is now 66 and still touches himself thinking about Jodie Foster, and has been living outside a mental health facility for the past several years. A result of gradual lightening of supervision, his lawyer said the momentous event of Hinckley's full release in June is both appropriate and required by law. There's no evidence of danger whatsoever, Barry William Levine said, adding that Hinckley has excellent prognosis. Prosecutor Casey Weston said the Justice Department agreed to a settlement but wanted to monitor Hinckley for the next 9 months because of 2 big changes in his life. He's living on his own for the first time in about 40 years, and because one of the primary doctors is preparing for retirement and disbanding Hinckley's therapy group, the Justice Department said it would file a motion with the court before June if it had fresh concerns about Hinckley. Ultimately, Your Honor, at this point, the ball is in Mr. Hinckley's hands, Weston said. Senior U.S. District Judge Paul Friedman pointed out that very few patients at St. Elizabeth's Hospital have been studied throughout the day more thoroughly than John Hinckley. Throughout the day? Where the fuck did I get that from? In 1982, a jury found Hinckley not guilty because of reason of insanity. He had been on trial for the shooting a year earlier of Reagan. White House Press Secretary James Brady, Secret Service Agent Tim McCarthy, and Washington Metro Police Officer Thomas Delahunty. After the verdict, Hinckley was committed to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, where he resided for more than 3 decades. Starting in 2003, restrictions on Hinckley gradually lessened. 5 years ago, the court granted him convalescent leave to live full-time in the community. Hinckley went to live with his mother in Williamsburg, Virginia. She died in her sleep in this summer at the age of 95. So, and of course, there are a few other things for this. I mean, Joe Biden wanted to come up and give Hinckley a full pardon here, but he figured that he couldn't do so because he would have done it if Hinckley was a better shot. I'm curious to see what happens with the Jodie Foster thing, because Hinckley's not allowed to have any contact with Jodie Foster. He's not allowed to have any access to pictures of Jodie Foster. He's not allowed to have any internet access. So that's an interesting set of affairs. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Well, no, he does have internet access because he has a YouTube channel, but he's not allowed to like go on Google and look up pictures or anything about Jodie Foster. And I don't know what would happen with that if he was unsupervised. But regardless, that's where we're going from this. That's what's happening with this. And Hinckley himself is, for the most part, going to be a free man. Interestingly enough. All right, last one, then we'll do Twitter trending. Speaking of people who are criminal and idiotic, this is from World News Daily Reports, so... Oh, where facts don't matter. Oh, man, this is a satire site. I didn't know that. Son of a bitch. I didn't know that. Should we still read it? I think we should still read it because it's funny. FBI raid at NSA employee's home reveals over 16 million dick pics. Federal prosecutors have charged Hillary Wang, a National Security Agency employee for 14 years, with theft of government property and unauthorized removal and retention of classified materials. It is believed that Wang used her top-secret security clearance to illegally download an estimated 16 million pictures of sexual nature off unsuspecting America's mobile phones and computers. Experts believe Wang used a custom-designed algorithm to target users' dick pics and automatically download them to her home servers. The employee had been on sick leave for the past 2 months after battling with severe depression and mental health issues, according to family members. FBI agents seized 14 computers at Hillary Wang's home Wednesday, containing no less than 53 terabytes of illegally downloaded pictures and documents from the National Security Agency. She's obsessed with big black penises and the small size of her Chinese boyfriend's penis, a fellow co-worker confirmed to reporters when reached by phone. Oh man, this is satire. This is a good one. I didn't know this was a satire site, but it's funny. It's like the Babylon Bee, like some of the other headlines over here. Saudi religious police cracks down on major pork smuggling ring. 319 arrests, 27 tons of bacon seized. Where? I would like to find these 27 tons of bacon for no reason entirely. Women prostitutes being replaced by sex sheep and camels in Kabul brothels after Taliban takeover. Ohio man accused of ejaculating in dozens of co-workers' lunches every day for 4 years. I'm sure that one's actually probably true. So I got had. That was on me. I got had. But don't send your junk to people. Alright, let's do Twitter trending and head out of here for the day. Let's get a refresh on this and let's check it out. Alright, National Voter Registration Day. And of course, they have to quote tweet David fucking Hogg. Celebrate democracy and fulfill your civic duty by registering to vote today. Today is my favorite holiday. I'll get on my bike and ride everywhere I can to go register to vote. Everywhere my bike can take me. David Hogg. If you want to vote, go and register. I guess today is a holiday for that. But, I mean, check your local laws. In Wisconsin, you have same-day registration. You can register at the polling place, or you can register at any time. Go check on their website, check your local restrictions, but you don't have to do it today. Don't virtue signal for these people. They're assholes. Number 3, and I love the fact that this is still trending, by the way. F. Joe Biden. F. Joe Biden is trending on Twitter, says Cat Turd. Please don't ever stop chanting F. Joe Biden. It's music to my ears, says Anita. Since it's trending, F. Joe Biden and everyone that voted for him. Diamond Silk tweet out, thousands chant fuck Joe Biden at concert including singer. That's at an Aaron Lewis concert, which, I mean, no surprise there. First word says, F. Joe Biden is now the universal recognition that things are seriously wrong in our country. You may say it for any occasion. You're walking your dog, as someone passes by, there's you say it. He repeats the same to you. I've had a moment, you both know it's true. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen... I'm surprised we haven't seen the leftoids for the most part. I know we see It's Me over here. People are shouting F Joe Biden at political or college football games. I thought sports weren't supposed to be political. Well, they're not, and that's the reason I'm not watching them. But yeah, no leftoids. I like this one here. Everyone wants to have sex with me. Well, Joe, that's not what fuck Joe Biden means. CZ! It does no good to remind anyone that chanting F Joe Biden didn't start out of nowhere. Openly disrespecting the office of the president is now a 20-year-old tradition, started, of course, by the people now complaining about it. So, yeah. Not a lot of leftoids back at this one, unfortunately, because I would have loved to see them melting down and reeing. Alright, number 4, which will be our third one. Legends Arceus. Watch the new Pokemon Legends Arceus trailer to get a glimpse of some noble Pokemon, including Lord of the Woods Cleaver, a bug rock-type axe Pokemon. I guess I don't know what this is, but there are some of the pictures off this. Is this a movie or is this a new video game? I think this is going to be a new video game. Excuse me. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. That'll be kind of cool, though. Do another redo of those games. I gotta sit down at some point, and I know I play Fallout so much, and I play Fallout 3 so much, but I do because I bought a Nintendo DS just to play the stepped up versions of Gold and Silver and the stepped up versions of Red, Blue, and Green. The graphically stepped up versions of those. I bought a DS just to play those, and I've maybe gotten an hour into each of them. And I do want to finish them. I want to see the stories in vibrant, bright color, the new graphics and everything. So maybe I'll do some of that on my off time if I ever have off time here. But yeah, I do like this franchise. I really do. I think it's cool. You know, this was something when I was first coming to age that this was first coming out. So I've seen this from the beginning. But that's what we see coming out of that. What else do we have? Nationals on National Sons Day. Okay, I read that wrong. So that'll be our fourth one here, National Sons Day. Families show appreciation for their sons on National Sons Day, which is celebrated on both September 28th and March 4th. Why are there two? On National Sunday, I love my happy, stubborn, funny, and loving boy. I wouldn't trade you for anything. Keep being the kid you are. Happy Son's Day to every son away from his father. Strictly speaking, it's just wrong to be away from a loving parent. Papa wants you to be the good doctor, engineer, politician, artist. Go to Harvard and more. Let's pray they reunite on National Sons Day. It's National Sons Day. I have the best, hands down, just saying National Sons Day. So, yeah, that's what we're seeing on a National Sons Day is a lot of women posting pictures of their son. I never knew this was a thing. Probably another Hallmark holiday somewhere. Alright, and the last one, celebrities, hashtag spread love and love will spread. If there was a share the entire world button on Twitter, I would gladly use it for this post. Spread love and love will spread. God always shows up just in time. My timeline is so full of anger. Side note, I need to clean it up. But Donnie Wahlberg knows just when to show up and share love to us all. And that's because Donnie Wahlberg, I guess, tweeted out, hashtag spread love and love will spread. Well, I mean, it's a good message to have out there. We should strive to be kinder to other people. I try to be nicer. I am hard on politicians because, well, they're trying to be hard on me. But, I mean, we should always be nicer to people. And, you know, like I said, I didn't ban Glazy either. As much as hateful as he was being off of this, I don't care. If he wants to come back and hang out, if he wants to come back and clean up his act, that's fine. Everybody's welcome here. You have to be trying very hard to get banned out of this channel. It has happened. But it's not something that happens often. Usually we just give you a timeout, make you think about what you've done, and most of them don't come back, unfortunately. Because I'd like to have the discussion, but, you know, I don't deal with full-on name-calling either. But yeah, go out there and spread love, you guys. And it'll spread back around. Be kind. There's too much hate in this world. There's too many people that are at each other's throats. So be good to one another. What was it? What is it Bill and Ted said? Be excellent to one another. Yeah, go out there, be excellent to one another. I think that's where we're going to cut the show. So, thank you guys very much. Holy shit, that's loud. We're done. Another Tuesday in the books here. So thank you guys definitely for coming out here and hanging out. The lurkers, the listeners, the people that don't care for us over here, the people who just come in to cause trouble and call names and such. You guys are all welcome too. Thanks for coming to listen. Thanks for watching the advertisement, especially over on Twitch. You guys rock. Thanks to everybody who came here, and we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary and more news of the day here. I'm sure it's going to be brewing for another one here. So hope to see you guys here. Hope to see some of the new guys here, the lurkers, the listeners, everybody else. And we will see you then, 7 a.m. Central Time, weekday mornings. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.